Welcome to a new series of interviews from Portico Bridge, premium international immigration experts. My name is Trafford Busuttil, co-founder and CEO. Today, it's my honor and pleasure to introduce to you His Excellency John Aquilina, the Ambassador of Malta to China and Vietnam. Apologies for that, Your Excellency. Maybe a few words about the distinguished career of His Excellency. His Excellency is a former politician in Australia. He was a member of the New South Wales Legislative Assembly, also was a Minister for Education and had other ministerial portfolios under the Carr Labour government in New South Wales. After retiring in 2011 as the leader of the House, His Excellency was appointed as the High Commissioner to India and Bangladesh and Ambassador to Nepal, and subsequently was appointed as the top diplomat of Malta to China and non-resident ambassador to the Philippines and Vietnam. Good morning, Your Excellency. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a great pleasure seeing you as usual.
Thank you, Trafford. It's a great pleasure and a great honor for me to be doing this Zoom video meeting with you. I very much miss, of course, the opportunity to be able to come and visit personally. And it's been some time now since I've been able to come and visit Vietnam. But nonetheless, we have to do what we can do under the current circumstances. And I'm delighted to have this opportunity to be speaking with you today.
The pleasure is mine. The first topic I'd like to touch upon is one that I know is very close to your heart, Your Excellency. Being a former educator yourself, being a former Minister of Education, and as we know here in Asia, education is a fundamental ingredient for parents. Why should one consider the Maltese educational system?
Well, there are many reasons, of course, apart from the fact that the education system in Malta, especially the secondary school education, is one of the most rigorous and one of the most highly praised in Europe. Malta has a long history with education. In fact, one of Europe's oldest universities is the University of Malta. And in fact, if you go into medicine, the University of Malta has the oldest medical faculty in Europe. It has had a very high reputation and is held in very high esteem by many of the educators around the world. Our secondary school education system has been regarded as being among the best in Europe and also among the best in the world. Some years ago, it was voted by the United Nations as being up there with the very, very best of Europe. And this is something which we also treasure very much. Of course, Malta being a relatively small country, we jealously guard each other's reputation very much. So there's a lot of competitiveness between the schools. Schools, of course, all like to claim that they are the best. And this competitiveness brings out a tremendous quality in our students and also among our teachers. Our teachers in Malta are people who dedicate their lives to their profession. They are people who go into teaching because that is their love, that is their zeal, that's what they want to do. And that is why people are very happy with the schools. One of the problems really we have is that our schools are so popular that to be able to secure a place in one of our schools is really something of very high esteem and something that's very highly priced. But on top of that also, it's very affordable, because whether one looks at the government-run schools or whether one looks at one of the church schools or the privately run schools, compared to the costs of providing education elsewhere in the world, Maltese education is very, very affordable indeed. And that's also another reason why once people from outside of Malta find out about our school education system and also our universities and tertiary institutions and the high caliber of those institutions, then they are very keen to sign up for a course in Malta, whether it be a school course or a university course, or indeed a course at one of our other tertiary institutions, such as the Institute of Tourism or maybe the Malta College for Art, Science and Technology.
I couldn't agree with you more, Your Excellency, because having been educated in Malta myself, and my first teachers in my formative years have left an imprint, both on my moral character and my educational character as well. And it has helped me progress in my career as the years went by. The second question I would actually like to put forward to you is, many Asians have heard of the island of Malta, but still wonder if the island is a safe, secure destination for one to raise their family.
Well, in an issue like this, of course, it's very easy to be subjective, but let's not be subjective in this instance. Let's take some objective criteria, and I don't think you can be more objective than the United Nations. Now, some years ago, the United Nations listed Malta as being the third safest country in the world. That is, unless you were a woman, and for women, it was actually listed as the second safest country in the world, second only to Australia. Now, why? Why is it this way? Again, it comes back to the familiarity of the Maltese people with one another. Being a relatively small country, people know each other, and there's very little places to hide in a place like Malta. And Malta is a place which is extremely safe. People care out for each other. People are very concerned about the welfare of other persons. For example, you'll never go and find people begging in the streets in Malta. You won't find people sleeping in the streets in Malta because no one will allow them to do that. If somebody was in a situation like that, there would be so many people who would come up and help that person, assist that person. So, you know, it is a safe country because people look out for each other, they care for each other. Theft and muggings, that sort of thing, are very, very rare. I'm not saying they don't exist, but they're very, very rare indeed. So much so that people are not overly conscious about their own security or the security of their homes or the security of their cars. It's just the way it is. It's a fairly easy way of life, easygoing way of life, and it's a very safe way of life. And also for people who are coming to Malta from foreign countries, they always feel very welcome in Malta because Malta is a very hospitable place. After all, like being located where we are, so strategically in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, Malta has been welcoming visitors to our islands for thousands of years. And we know that to have people visiting our country is a great source of income for our country as well. So another reason why the Maltese are very hospitable. We're very practical people, so we're hospitable to visitors because we know that they, by their presence, boost our economy and also boost our lifestyle as well, improve our lifestyle. So don't anyone ever think that if you go to Malta, you're going to have to sort of worry about your own security, your own safety, or even that you may be running into unfriendly people, because quite the reverse, you'll be welcomed with open arms. You will never see anybody in Malta standing on a corner looking at a map trying to work out where to go. Why? Because as soon as that happens, there'll be 3 or 4 or 5 people coming up wanting to help that person and to show them directions and assist them and ask them, you know, if they're lost or if what can happen. That's the way the Maltese are. That's what happens in Malta. You'll never feel alone. You'll never feel insecure. You'll always feel as if you're safe and you're being looked after and there are people there to help you.
If I may add also, there is the ease of communication because English is an official language in Malta. And therefore, all Maltese speak English fluently, and thus a person can communicate all their feelings and thoughts. On something very important that you said, Your Excellency, which I agree with you 100%, are family values, where in Malta, family values and the traditional values are still held and strongly followed. Turning on to another subject, which is now turning on to business. Malta, in the past and also in the present, has distinguished itself as a robust jurisdiction within the European Union. What makes Malta unique for Asian investors, in your opinion?
Well, there are many things about Malta which have attracted investment. It's a very secure place, so the risk associated with investment is very, very minimal. Malta is highly desired. It's a small place, but it's in great demand. And we all know the laws of supply and demand dictate that if the demand is high and the supply is relatively low, that's going to increase the value of the product that you've got. Land, for example, in Malta is a great premium, a great commodity. So people investing in land, people investing in building are going to make a very secure investment because they know that their investment can only reap great results. In fact, for the last 5 or 6 years, the increase in property values in Malta have been higher than Hong Kong. So there's proof that there is a great boom going on in investment in property. And of course, as we know, being a relatively small country, land is in quite limited supply. So because of the demand, the values of the properties keep going up. But it also, for example, is a very safe location for financial investment as well. Since Brexit, we've had many finance companies that had their European headquarters in London, for example, seeking to relocate and to establish a European headquarter inside the EU. And Malta has been one of the great venues for those locations. Many finance companies, many banks, foreign banks, have sought to open up branches in Malta and to establish European base in Malta. In fact, if you look at the 5 biggest financial centres of the European Union, you have, of course, Luxembourg and Frankfurt and Paris and Dublin, and you have Malta. So we're right up there with the top 5. Whatever you do in Malta, you're going to be sure of a very good return. And you're also going to be sure of not only having a very good return, but a minimum of worry in terms of the risk of what your investment is. The other thing about Malta also is that we're really ahead of most of the world in terms of engaging the new economies, such as, for example, Bitcoin and blockchain and cryptocurrencies. We were, in fact, the first country in the world to legislate for blockchain. So, and that was back in 2018. We actually have laws that dictate what happens with blockchain. And an interesting point for Vietnam is that Vietnam is looking at introducing its own legislation for blockchain as well. And in fact, Maltese advisors are advising the Vietnamese government about the details for that legislation. And I know this for a fact because I've actually met with those advisors from Malta who have been providing assistance to the Vietnamese government in terms of legislation for blockchain. And when you come into artificial intelligence, for example, robotics, again, Malta is leading the field. I have a cousin actually who works in the medical field, and she sent me some pictures recently of some of the robotics that they're now using in our top hospital, in Mater Dei Hospital, among the most advanced robotics in the world. We actually last year passed legislation to allow for robotics to be used in the performance of surgeries. So Malta is a very technically advanced country, whether you're looking at the internet or whether you're looking at any kind of financial investment or property. There's also, of course, then the gaming industry, which is so big in Malta, and so many companies from overseas now have a branch or a base in Malta, and they operate things like online gaming from Malta. A lot of the online gaming, for example, that carries on in the United Kingdom is actually based in Malta. There are so many opportunities there. It really is beneficial and worthwhile for people to go and have a look for themselves and see how they can turn the Maltese economy to their advantage. We are a small nation, but we really do punch above our weight and above our size in many, many ways. And the return for financial investment is one of those areas.
I cannot agree with you more on this. Also, if our viewers would just have a look at the local papers in Malta, one of the problems that the island has is a shortage of manpower for the economy to continue growing. And this obviously creates a lot of job opportunities for people on the island. My last question to you, Your Excellency, because I know you do have time constraint, would be a subject that everybody has spoken about across the globe is the COVID pandemic. How has Malta fared during this difficult time that the world is passing through?
Well, again, let's take some objective data on this. And all the charts show that Malta is way up there in terms of every criteria as far as coping with the pandemic. We were one of the first nations to start vaccinating our citizens. Malta moved very quickly and introduced 2 million doses of Pfizer vaccine. And we were among the first countries in the world to have 90% of our population vaccinated. So it is, from that point of view, a very safe country. When the pandemic first broke out, Malta did not waste any time. Again, being an island country, we had some advantages in terms of being able to close down our borders. So immediately the government took steps to shut down our airports, to shut down our seaports, so as to prevent the pandemic coming to Malta in large numbers. And we coped with the first wave very successfully, among the best in the world. And even with the second wave, although it was a little bit more serious, it still was way up there, very high recovery rate, very low incidence of the pandemic spreading among our population in terms of per 1,000 head of population. Today, we are the safest country in Europe by far, and one of the safest countries in the world. We're right up there in the top 5, in fact, worldwide of safety. And that is why Malta's economy is opening up with a great deal of caution, but also with a great deal of optimism as well. We are allowing relatively free entry to people to come to Malta from most countries in Europe, and for many countries beyond Europe as well. And in fact, recently, Vietnam was declassified from being a dark red country to a red country, so as to make traveling to Malta from Vietnam now much easier. Instead of having to do 2 weeks quarantine in a midway country between Vietnam and Malta, such as, for example, maybe in Dubai or in Istanbul, you can now go from Vietnam straight to Malta. And if you are vaccinated in Vietnam, you go straight to Malta. You only need to do 2 weeks quarantine once you get to Malta, and then you can just roam around as free as a bird. So there are many advantages as far as Malta is concerned. And the main advantage is that people can go to Malta with peace of mind, knowing that there is one of the smallest chances in the world of actually catching COVID-19 in Malta, but also Malta provides one of the greatest freedoms of any nation in the world in terms of being able to move around.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for talking to us about our amazing island of Malta. As usual, it's always a great pleasure meeting you.
Well, Trafford, thank you very much for this, and all the best to Portico and Bridge. It's nice to be able to talk to you personally. We've known each other for many, many years, and I'm very pleased to be able to support your company in terms of being able to bring business from Vietnam to Malta. I wish that I was able to come to Vietnam. Not that there's problems actually coming into Vietnam now, but there are problems for me to come back into China because we still have 4 weeks quarantine in order to be able to get back into the country, and I really can't afford that amount of time. But I wish you all the very best, and we trust that we will continue to have increasing success of business flowing from Vietnam to Malta.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and I wish you an excellent day as usual.
Thank you, Trafford. All the very best.
Thank you so much. Bye. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. All the best.
Grazie, Eccellenza. Bye-bye.